Hello everyone, this is Leo from the PC Security channel and you're watching the private evaluation of Malwarebytes EDR. In this video we will be focusing on the product's threat hunting capabilities, and as usual this is going to be found in the web console Malwarebytes Nebula. Now while you can see categorizations in terms of whether something is a malware, exploit or ransomware over here, if you want to go into advanced details you want to look into either suspicious activity or the flight recorder, which is really where I expect most of you will be doing the threat hunting. Now under suspicious activity, you're going to see any kind of process or file that displays certain behavior patterns listed, and then you can investigate it pretty much as an incident straight away. So that is something nice in the way that it puts everything together for you, and you've pretty much got an incident and you can actually respond to it directly under actions and lock down the endpoint or remediate, as you saw in the last two videos. But let's say we want to look for something specific. That's where you want to go into Flight Recorder, and this is where you have a bit of a universal search. It's not exactly universal, so you can't just type in something like wasted locker for things to show up. You actually have to be specific. So you have to go with the extension, or you have to type in the exact hash. So if we say look for wastedlocker.exe and then broaden the search parameter to the last 30 days, we're going to see the one endpoint that was hit by it. First thing we see here, the type of incident, a process or a few processes, and some file system changes. Now if we scroll down, it's going to tell us which endpoint was affected, what group it was in, and all the details as usual. And then we can actually click on the endpoint to get more details. Now we've got the process path here, process ID, and the hash. Now one thing I have noticed is it's giving us a SHA-256 over here, but if we go into suspicious activity, and click on the same file and say we point to wastedlocker.exe, for some reason in the details here it gives us an MD5. Now MD5 can of course have collisions, but it's not really a big deal for identification. I don't mind either of them being used, but I just find it a little bit weird that it's inconsistent. But either way, if you're using services like VARSTotal, both of these hashes should work. Now if we go back to the flight recorder, again, one of the snags of the UI is it doesn't remember where you're at, so you would have to reiterate the exact search query. Now going back to the screen, we can actually click a button here to check its status on VARSTotal, and it takes us straight to the VARSTotal page. And then of course you can investigate it using the features of VARSTotal. If you have VARSTotal intelligence, then you can obviously use VARSTotal graphs and kind of look at it in detail. Again, a recurring theme here is the simplicity. I like how the events are color coded. So file system is light blue, process is dark blue. If you had registry events, those would be yellow, I believe. A very clean way of representing what exactly was affected. This is the general process graph, and in the case of Wasted Locker, most of the malicious actions are actually carried out by another process called glob.bin. So if we click on this, it gives us some details, and you can actually click and double click to expand the graph. For each detection, it also tells you what rules were triggered. So in this case, you can see that the rule is Sandbox, and if you click on it, it gives you some details. And this is actually very similar to something like Cuckoo Sandbox. So again, at the moment, it's not very customizable in that aspect. I don't think you can actually go in and change the rules or change the sandbox configuration. That's entirely managed by Malwarebytes. That's part of the design philosophy here. You are only shown the end result of the analysis. Now you still can investigate incidents because, as you can see, we can look at each of these individual processes, the hashes, and even the command line, and that's really useful because you can see here what exact command was passed to command prompt. I'll just show you an example of if you want to look something up by hash. So if we click on Black Claw here, get the MD5, copy that, and search in Flight Recorder, timeline for last 30 days, and we do find it. In this case, we also have a network activity associated with it, and once again we can investigate it by opening the actual endpoint. You can also click on isolate endpoint to directly take action from here. Overall, I think this is definitely one of the simpler interpretations of a threat hunting UI that I've seen. It's very much focused on getting you to the actual threat and giving you the actions in terms of isolation or remediation, but it's not exactly powerful in terms of malware analysis. So if you wanted to personally, let's say, analyze executables that are running on your systems, this is not going to help you with that. If you do want more advanced capabilities, of course, they do have APIs and integrations that you can look into. They do integrate into things like Splunk. Again, if you've got a different firewall service, you can probably integrate and then kind of tie your reports together. So in terms of threat hunting, it's very much more an administrator-focused approach than an analyst-focused approach. If you don't have a SOC team to go in depth and investigate incidents, you just have an admin who's looking at the reports and needs to take the actions directly, I think this interface lends itself quite well to that. And that's our final take. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it useful. If you'd like to get in touch with us, feel free to do so at thepcsecuritychannel.com or tpsc.tech.